Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to Embody Your Creator Self. I'm your host, Rayania Chaenn. Today, I am super excited to have the honor and pleasure to welcome Magenta Pixie to the show. And this is such a beautiful honor. Welcome to the show, Magenta.
Oh, thank you so much, Rayania. It's really nice of you to ask me.
Yeah, it's just such a, I don't know, I would say it's an inspiration. And I just came across a beautiful, profound interview that you had some years ago. And I just felt like, oh, I definitely would love to have you on the show. And I know you have done so much over the many years that you're very dedicated and committed to your path. And I just feel it's such an inspiration to see someone, to witness someone who is really putting in all the trust and faith and have such high commitment. So I wanted to thank you um, from the bottom of my heart. Um, I just felt such a role model and inspiration.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice of you to say. Yes, I am committed to this mission, and I'm really glad that that comes across. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah. So I know you are a channel for higher dimensional divine intelligence consciousness called the White Wind Collective of the Nine, Conscious of Nine. And I would like to ask you, like, do you see your current stage? Would you describe yourself as a messenger of the galactics, or how would you see your role in this ascension at the moment?
Yes, absolutely. So many different ways to explain what you do. A messenger for the galactics is a good way of explaining it. I think what I see is that because I'm able to, I'm just going to touch my webcam, it's gone a bit blurred. Because I'm able to make that connection with the higher dimensional consciousness and bring forward responses to so many questions. I would see my role as someone who is able to impart those responses as a perspective, as a higher perspective, or as an objective perspective, as a perspective of a consciousness that is able to see outside of the linear time that we see. So they have a wider perspective. And because not everyone yet within their own awakening has got to the point where they are bringing forward that kind of information, some have, many have, but some haven't got to the point yet where they're bringing forward the information at the point of quite extensive communication. Some people have intuition and knowings and feelings and empathy, but they're not necessarily getting yet actual communication. Then I feel that within this bridge of time between individuals stepping into that, uh, and the other side of that is where everyone can do that. I feel I'm assisting people to walk into that themselves and act as a messenger for them until such time as other messages are no longer needed as information. They will simply be needed for confirmation instead of an individual's own messages. So that's like a transitionary phase, a bridge phase. So I think messenger for higher dimensional consciousness, messenger for the galactics. And also, it's not just about the messages, it's about what occurs when you bring forward the frequency of that consciousness as you speak the words that they're asking you to speak, or the words that you're hearing, or the information you're picking up. There is an activation taking place as well, as energy is passed from them, from that structure, through you to those that listen, or those that are receptive. Even those that are not receptive will still receive some of that energy in a form, but those who are receptive to that can have profound activations from listening to messages coming from another individual, because they're at the point, if they're receptive, they're at the point where they're aware that other individuals are their other selves. So this is where we're finding union with our own true self as we connect with all the versions of our other selves. And if we're not accessing a particular piece of information in our own embodiment, then we can access that from one of our other selves, all the many messengers out there across the world that are bringing this forward through at this time. So it's an activation as well as a message.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I think it's quite also a journey to realize that when we read the channeled message or the information from different higher dimension, like you said, it's also like a vibrational transmission itself, right? So sometimes even though we don't understand every word, but then I think subconsciously or energetically we're absorbing what we need in order to, make that conscious connection. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah. So I wonder, do you always know you are here to be a messenger or a guide? I would also feel like the word like ascension guide or intuitive guide. Or do you how does your mission and how did you find your mission, or how did you uncover, or how did you connect to your mission?
Oh, that's such a good question. No, I didn't always know. I mean, as I was growing up, I I didn't know what I was here to do, or if there even was a mission. But sometimes I would find myself saying things. I remember saying to a friend of mine, I must have been, 15 or 16 at the time. And I was chatting to a friend, and I remember saying, don't you think, though, that we're all here for a reason? That there's a reason why we're here that's greater than us. This is like 15, 16. And I remember my friend being really sarcastic and saying, oh, yeah, people say that all the time. Where have you heard that before? And I'm saying, I haven't heard it before. So my friend was quite cynical because he had heard people say that. I'd never heard it, and it was coming from absolutely from the heart and soul. But I didn't know I was going to say that. So I would then go away and think, why did I say that? That isn't everyone here for a reason? So that was about 15, 16. So there'd be little knowings, just little moments of lucidity, little moments of clarity. Like I remember the teacher saying once, I mean, we must have been, I don't know, 10, 11, something like that, 12, putting us into groups. And some of you are leaders and some of you are followers. And I remember instantly thinking, oh, I'm a leader, but I didn't know what that meant. And it wasn't really done with ego either. It was just a case of, well, that's me. But I was very young and a child. But no, I didn't know. I didn't have a conscious knowing of what I was supposed to do. And the very first time that I had these knowings of what I was here to do was in 1993 when I first started channeling. So this would have been around the time I began channeling. Just before I had begun channeling, I went along to a spiritualist church and I saw a medium work. I went with my brother. And after the medium had worked and we'd seen the demonstration, it was the first time I'd ever seen a medium work. I thought it was just unbelievable to me and so fascinating. I thought it was amazing. And I remember saying to my brother, I'm going to do that, but I'm not going to be like him. He's a male medium. I'm not going to be like him. I'm going to be different. And then I just said, without realizing what I was saying, I'm going to be a medium for other mediums. And then I remember thinking, why did I say that? So sometimes these things just come out of your mouth and then you stop and think, was it even me that said that? Where did that even come from? So that was the first kind of knowing of that mission. And then that built really from that moment when I declared I'm going to be a medium for other mediums. I didn't know what that meant because I was analyzing my own words and thinking, well, why would a medium need a medium when they're doing it themselves? I now know it's a light. I'm a messenger for light workers for starseeds, but I didn't know the terminology or anything at the time. So that was the first inkling, really. And then it builds on that, and you get more clues. And then when you get messages like you've been trained since birth to do what you're here to do, then I would look back and think, wow, everything I've done right from when I was little, right from when I was 1, 2 years old, it's almost as though if some greater force could have said, right, this is what you're going to do, put me in a life, I would have literally started working, training from birth, well, prior to birth, because prior to birth, when my mother was pregnant, my father was an opera singer, and he would sing to my mother's tummy, to me in my mother's tummy when she was pregnant. So I'm hearing opera, sung from a fantastic opera singer with the most amazing resonance in his voice, the most amazing tone. That's my father toning and chanting for me before I was born. So that's the sound, the primordial sound, the sound of creation. You can get that from toning, from the gongs, from the bowls. All of that was there before I was born. And then when I was born, literally within the first days of my birth, if I would cry and my mother couldn't settle me for any other reason, my father would come in and sing opera full out, full on opera. He used to sing all the time at the top of his voice. And I would go quiet immediately and be listening, so that was training from day one. And I remember my mother telling me when I was really little, and I mean, I'm talking about sort of, 8 months, 9 months into 18 months. So my father was at the opera company working, and she just had me, and they just moved into London at the time, and she'd come from the Midlands. So she had no friends. She didn't know anyone. And she just threw herself into looking after me. But it wasn't just looking after me. She would sit me down and teach me. And she taught me all my numbers, all my letters, all my colors. She taught me to read. So by the time I went to school, I was a fluent reader at the age of, I think I started school at 6 or 7 at the time. I was reading full, like, little children's novels, so I'd been trained to work with words, to work with story, to understand the joy of words. So my mother taught me words and reading. My father taught me music. I mean, when I was really young, I was given Peter and the Wolf album, which every character, the fox, the wolf, the bird, every character has a tune played by a different instrument. Right. So my father would say, what instrument is that? Oh, that's the oboe, Daddy. Oh, that's the violin. That's the trumpet. So I knew all of these things very, very young. And at the time, that's just life. But looking back now, I understand that I was training with sound, with word, with frequency from day one. My parents were in a theatrical family, come from a theatrical family. My father was an opera singer and an actor. My mother was a ballet dancer and choreographer. And so I grew up in the theatre from tiny. I'm backstage watching everyone get their makeup on, get their costumes on. I'm watching the rehearsals, watching dress rehearsals. I'm there during the shows. So I grew up from very young around acting and stage performance, right, which again is another form of speaking and talking and speaking to an audience. And so my father picked me up and shoved me on stage at I think I was about 15 months old at rehearsals in between one show and another. He put me on the stage to entertain the cast. And I remember him recording me at home singing Mary Had a Little Lamb. He then stood me up on the stage to sing Mary Had a Little Lamb. And while I was singing this at about 15 months old, I spoke really early as well. I was talking at 10 months apparently, and I was telling people my name and address at 15 months. And my mother has been regaling me with this story of how I spoke early. I could talk before I could walk. She's never stopped telling me this story. I think she's so proud of it. She's never stopped telling me this story all my life. So yeah, and then he played the recording, and I remember listening to myself sing and listening to this recording of me
Mm.
singing to myself. So this is recording my own voice at 15 months. I mean, when you look back, and this isn't the case with just me, this is every single individual that's activated into the starseed awakening, the spiritual awakening, embodying their creativity. Every single individual that's done that will be able to look back and see the points throughout their life that was training, and they'll be able to take this right back to childhood, very early childhood, birth, before birth, as in when mum is pregnant, and obviously you then can go back to other lives as well, which is a whole other subject.
Yeah. So I'm very fascinated with how, you grew up from a artistic musician performer's background to where you are. Would you say it takes trust, or how? Because you mentioned that you started to have little inkling and this knowing that just rise from you, and then through your voice expressed to the world, like to this realm. And what quality would you look back, like, what got you through to where you are today? So I'm just very fascinated as to your journey.
So that would have been the teaching coming in from the spirit guide I connected with back in 1993, which would have been White Spirit. So I've continued to do drama and theatre. When I was younger, I started doing drama at the age of 8. So I went to my own drama classes at 8 years old and carried on doing that. And my intention was to audition for drama school and go into the theatre. That was my goal and my dream. And always I'd said, if I can't make it in the theatre, my second choice is to be a writer. So they were my two things I wanted to do, but it would be writing fictional stories. That was that I wanted to be a novelist. That not writing nonfiction. That was my dream. And I met someone, my first husband, and we fell in love, and I was married. I had my first baby at 19, which took me away from that pathway into going to drama school. I met him, and it wasn't going to work with me being in London at drama school and him being in the south of England, 2.5 hours away at the age of 17 years old. And I had to make a choice at that time at 17. Do I give up on my dream of going to drama school and stay with him, or do I let the relationship go? Because it was getting obvious that the relationship wasn't going to work if I was in London. Now, looking back, on one level, was that a really stupid decision? On another level, I feel that I was drawn into that, because if I had gone into the theatre, I don't know as I would have taken this journey. Maybe I would. I mean, there are many, many ways to bring you to the same point. But I had my first baby, which took me away from working professionally. I still did the odd professional work, which was local to me, but I couldn't get to London every 5 minutes, which is, at that time when I was younger, London was the place you needed to be. If you wanted to go into the theatre, if you wanted to go into television in this country, you needed to be in London. That's not the case anymore. There's opportunities across the UK now, but there wasn't when I was younger. So I went into amateur theatre in order to continue to do the thing that I loved doing. And because I was good, I got all the lead parts in all the amateur local groups. So I became quite well known in the local community. So how that switched really was, I was still doing amateur dramatics when I began to channel. And I remember thinking how similar it was, because obviously your conference, your retreat that you're doing is about creativity. So my creativity's been there since day one. I've never stopped being creative through theatre and drama and acting. Now, I'm told by the 9 that higher creativity is the main springboard into spirituality, awareness, and accessing that multidimensional memory, bringing forward that knowing and making connections, and having that higher dimensional communication. So I do remember thinking how similar it was, but it was higher. It felt like I was in a higher vibration. And what I mean by that is, as an actor, when I created a character, so I'd be given the script, I'd look at the character that I was playing, and she would just come to life before me. I didn't really do things the way a lot of the other amateur actors did, which is sit down, learn your lines, get all your lines down on a tape recorder, listen to your lines, learn your lines, and then read them and wait for the director to tell you how to say them. I didn't do it that way. My character, as soon as I knew who I was playing, would come to life, and I would become her and become part of her and do all that first. Then as I learn the lines, yes, I'm learning lines in a sort of with rote memory, as I had to remember those lines, but I'm learning the lines in the way that I felt the character would speak them and what she was thinking. So that was in itself, if you will, a form of channeling, even though you're not channeling a being, you're not channeling a spirit that's passed on, you are channeling a creation, a character that may or may not be based on a real person, depending on the author of the script. So I was doing all of that from the age of 8. That's when I started to do that. So that to me was my training for what I'm doing now, but I didn't know it at the time. When I was in amateur theatre, I just felt that maybe one day when the kids were grown up, maybe I could go back into the theatre, or possibly I could be a drama teacher, which I did go into. I did actually take my teacher training. I did become a qualified drama teacher, and I did actually teach children. So I did do that for a while my kids were growing up. But I didn't really have an idea or a plan as to where I was going with this. I just knew that I had to, get on stage, audition for the next part, get the script, and do the show. It was just like my main focus was the play, whichever play I was involved in at the time. I would take breaks, obviously, when I had 5 children altogether. So I'd be taking breaks when I was pregnant, when they were babies. But as soon as they were old enough to other parent to help out and people could babysit, I'd be back doing the next play I could find. And Shakespeare being my favorite, which is an interpretation of ancient language, understanding the meaning of a phrase, or a sentence, or a piece of prose, and being able to perform that to give meaning to those words in a language that we no longer use. So again, learning Shakespeare was a massive learning for me. So when I spoke to White Spirit, he told me all of this. He told me that you've got the creative stance, you already have all these characters that you are learning to embody and present as. So with channeling, it is different, because it's almost as though creativity as an actor comes from mind and from the solar plexus energy. That's the higher creativity. It's thought, it's intelligence, it's the solar plexus, which is knowing and psychic ability, and emotional intelligence. But the channeling goes up to the heart. You do need heart in acting as well, especially if you're playing a character that's deeply emotional, but it's still an imagined creation over your own heart. Your own heart is still you, and you take on the heart and the emotions of your character. But when you're channeling, it's actually right in your heart, because you're so connected to that higher consciousness. And then it goes beyond the imagination, the intelligence level, which is part of the third eye activation, the brow chakra, into this all-seeingness of it, and into the crown and into the galactics. So for me personally, drama was my main training. Now, that might not be the case for everyone. However, I am told that there are a great many individuals, whether they're good at theatre or not, if they're to go to an adult drama class and just learn a few techniques, learn some improvisation, learn how to embody a character, then hold the intention of wanting to move into higher communication and channeling, That's absolutely a springboard into that. I didn't have that intention. It just came to me without knowing that that was a training. It wasn't until I channeling that I actually found out that that was the training for it. But now looking back, I see all the similarities. And I don't think I'm the only person who has moved into spiritual communication and channeling through drama. There are other actors. I know my friend's drama teacher. He's really well known as a spiritual teacher now, although I can't remember his name, which is awful. And there were a couple of other people that were actors and professional and everything that were also channels and mediums as well. So it does go together, but not for everyone. It's a very indigo path. You know, you hear of the indigo energy, the indigo frequency. It's very much the path of the indigo, whereas perhaps the crystal would perhaps use movement, maybe dance. And then of course there's music, but those music and dance are more about keying you into empathy, knowing, intuition, embodying that higher energy, but you're not necessarily speaking it as a communicator. Not everyone is a communicator. Some starseeds are here to heal and to work as artists and to bring forward messages through visuals, through paint, or through digital artwork or photography. And many starseeds are here to activate others through sound, through different versions of music. So all the creative stances, all the creative methods of expressing creativity across the board are used for this great awakening that we're going through right now on this planet. And my specific one is obviously words. And then of course I did go into writing, and that wasn't necessarily fiction as I had dreamed it would be, because I was reading I read my first fictional novel by Enid Blyton at the age of 7. You know, that was my first novel at the age of 7. So I was addicted to novels after that. So I wanted to then write them, especially within the fantasy genre. So I'm not doing that. However, over the last couple of years, I've been put into a position where I found myself being led into talking about fantasy fiction, creative writing, and storytelling through characterization when it comes to delivering potential information to individuals. I found that area of my life, fantasy fiction, has been useful in as a different tool to deliver information. So that's come into my reality as well anyway. So I ended up doing those two things, speaking in front of an audience and writing, but not quite in the way that I thought I was going to do. So I've always kind of known deep down inside my mission involved these things, but my interpretation was, I'm going to be an actor, I'm going to be a writer. But my interpretation was not what the mission actually was. And when I found the mission, it was a huge, huge surprise to me. And there's another aspect to that as well. This would have been around, I think this would have been around 2010. So I'd already started channeling, I'd already started releasing my information, but it was done as a, if you will, a love, a hobby, an interest. It was my vocation, it was my mission, but it wasn't my job. And it wasn't how I brought in, you know, money into the family. And I felt that it was time for me, because I still had a small child when I started releasing the first videos. My youngest was only like 8 years old at the time. So I then went off and got this job on a farm actually, but I was helping with all different things on this farm with animals and all sorts. It was a trial. I only did 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, the lady said to me, we don't think you're suitable because you want to do your own thing. I wasn't very good at taking orders from the other staff, which is really, really common with Indigo, but it's because I didn't agree with what they were asking me to do. Typical Indigo. So I remember her saying to me, we think you need to do something that's more supervisory. And I'm thinking, what? And I'm thinking, I don't have any training in anything. I mean, I was so busy telling stories to myself at school and so busy doing plays and so busy being involved in drama that the only qualifications I really got were in English and drama and religious studies, believe it or not. I failed everything else because I was just had no interest in them. Again, looking back, well, that's because that's what I was supposed to do. And I was being told to do these other things, you know, and I wasn't supposed to be there. So I remember speaking to my daughter and saying, you know, I wish I had a skill because she says I need to be supervisor in a supervisory position. I don't know what to do. I just don't have any skills. And my daughter said, what's the matter with you, Mum? Of course you do. I said, what? So it took my daughter to actually tell me. She goes, well, your spiritual stuff, you're all the readings and all the. And I said, yes, but I can't ask for money for that. I can't ask for money. I've got that information for free. I need to give it out for free. And my daughter said to me, well, I'm a trained hairdresser. And if somebody walked off the street and said to me, you're a really good hairdresser, please cut my hair for free, I'd have to say no, because I work for a salon and I need to charge you for a haircut. And I said, it's not the same. She goes, Mum, it is. It is the same. So I then had to do all this soul searching about charging money and communicate with the nine about this, and actually discover where my integrity lies within that, which is why it really upsets me when people call me. I think, you know, you have these haters out there, and I think people have said things about me and called me like a grifter. And I didn't know what that meant because it's quite an American term, I think. I had no idea what it meant. So I looked it up, and it means someone who is conning people out of their money through fraud. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I struggled with charging money for a long time. And even when I started, it was by donation. I would do a massive, great 2-hour reading for someone and just take £5, you know, and then I'd have to learn. So that was the next learning curve. But how I actually found out how to do that wasn't just my daughter. I actually sat down into a visualization technique that is really, really helpful for anyone who is trying to make a decision in their life and can't make a decision. So they've got decision A, B, C, and D, or maybe A and B, however many forks in the road are presenting themselves, however many potential options. How do you make a decision? How do you know which is the right option for you? So I've used this method many times in my life, and it's always been so helpful. So on this particular occasion, I sat down in meditation and I visualized door A, door B, door C, and door D. And I would see 4 different magentas open the door. So there'd be magenta in door A, and second magenta, third magenta, fourth magenta. And each of these magentas were doing a job that I felt that perhaps I could do. So this one's working in a shop, and this one's decided to go and work with children, and this one's working with animals. And, you know, I'd have these ideas, and there were these 4, and I would talk to each one because obviously they're a year, 6 months, a year, 2 years in the future. So I'd say, do you like your job? What are you doing? And then magenta would answer me and say, well, yes, I do like it. They all said that, but it's not exactly what my heart wants to do. It's not really my mission, because I was thinking my mission is to make these videos, bring forward the nine's information, get that up on YouTube, answer people's questions, email people when they need me. But I wasn't actually doing readings because I felt that that's a job, and my job and my mission were not coming together. So as I did this exercise and communicated with these 4 different magentas, all of a sudden the 4 magentas moved apart, and this one magenta walked down the middle. She was shining with light, sparkling light, but she was me, but in the future. And she said, I have found the job that I love to do, and this job and my mission are one and the same. And I remember looking at her and saying, well, what is it? And her disappearing. So that's the kind of clues you get, that no guidance system is going to come in and say, your mission is this. That isn't how it works. You must discover your mission yourself, because it is an epiphany. And
Yeah.
when it's an epiphany and it's a realization. When you have an epiphany and a realization, you create chemical change and activation of light and awareness, and you trigger new synapses in the brain through the epiphany and the revelation and the realization, which is what's happening on a global level right now on this planet. People ask me, is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? There are revelations that must come, because the epiphanies and revelations we have on the planet on a global level and the galactic level are part of the awakening into ascension. We are not meant to know everything. We discover, we are explorers and discoverers. So slowly I put two and two together and realized, okay, I need to just start doing readings now, and I need to start finding a way to ask people for, you know, payment in return for what I'm doing. And as I said, I struggled with that and started off slowly over a journey of many years. So I got online in 2008. I started doing readings in 2010, and now we're 12 years, you know, later. So it's not something you just know, but you always have clues. I think that's the answer really to your question, which is such a great question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. There's so many golden nuggets through your own journey. And yeah, I love what you say. Like, you know, there's no guidance. I very seldom would a conscious, higher conscious being come say, oh, you need to do this. This is your mission. I mean, we hear that sometimes. And I think many people feel like if I speak to a higher consciousness, then they must know everything. So they will tell me everything. But I don't think that is necessarily true, because we all have our free will and our own destiny or our own field of creation that, you know, that require us to actively participate in creating, right? So hence the creator self, the, you know, our multidimensional self, you know, to create in this ascension journey.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I mean, that's who the nine are. They are my creator self. That's who they are. And it's not that they don't know everything. What it is that because there are so many potentials,
Yeah.
so many different playouts, let's say timelines, so many possibilities, so many different eventualities, they can see the field of all of those, but they cannot tell us which one of those eventualities are going to play out in our experience, in our manifestation, because we are creating that from the physical incarnation. That's why they're a guidance structure, because they have a wider view, but we're the ones that make the decisions here. So that's how you embody your creator self, is by holding that awareness of the more expansive view, more multidimensional view, as you said, but living it from this individual perspective. So you could say that they don't know everything, but you could also say that they see the potentials of everything, but they can't know it for you, because you're the one who has to find that knowing
Yeah.
as you live it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for clarifying that. And I wonder that because I know right now at this 2022 and 2023, it's like everything is happening so fast. They are like full of new timelines, if we use the term, of potentials. And would you like to share like what is in your latest communication, what is the invitation for us, you know, collective and individual, as we move forward to embody more of our true self, or awakening to more of who we truly are?
The most important thing, in my opinion, as to how to navigate through the rest of 2022, which is only another month, and into 2023 and what is coming,
Yeah.
is your perspective. And I don't just mean how you view something or how you think about something. I mean how you genuinely feel about something as well, because what's occurring is more of this bifurcation where, and this is happening in all walks of life, including the spiritual communities as well. So you have this bifurcation where an event occurs or a situation occurs, and you'll have a bunch of people interpreting that as awful, terrible, horrible, devastating, and it means that there is no guidance. It means that we have lost this journey that we're on, if you will, and negative forces have beaten us, if you will. Then you have a whole bunch of other people that hold the perspective of, I don't understand what that event means. It must mean this. Because I don't understand it, I will ignore it. You have a whole bunch of other people that are seeing everything that occurs as a seed point into the positive, into more revelation, more great awakening, more awareness, more connection, more memory coming online, more embodying your created self. That is what that group of people see. And what you perceive from events and what you hold in your heart and in your being as your emotional response and your frequency as a response to these events creates more of the same. So you're going to have individuals going through this thinking everything's terrible, everything's collapsing, everything is falling apart, life has just turned to dust. Where is the hope for us? Why are we even alive? It's over. It's like that life has ended for us. It's not the same as it was, and it's just a disaster. It's destruction. And then you have another bunch of people that will see that, because yes, there will be this collapse of structures, because when change occurs, that's what happens, especially when you have two different factions holding different perspectives that are clashing in opinion, and they are leading the way in the political fields and in the media and in finance and all of those things. But you will have this other bunch of individuals who will always see, oh goodness, that's great, because if that's happened, it means it'll lead to this, and potentially it will lead to that. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's really interesting. I had a dream only last night, actually. I was going to make a video to talk about it. It was so profound and full of all these spiritual symbols, I guess, symbolism. Very short part of a dream. I'm with this bunch of people. My husband was there. He was quite an observer. He wasn't really saying anything, but I was with these bunch of people, loads of other people I didn't know. Mostly they were men, actually, but we're walking outside. We actually came out of a bank or a business financial type institution out into the street, and all we saw was destruction. There were buildings were crumbling. Don't take this literally, it's all metaphor. I'm not saying buildings are going to crumble in 2023 at all. Structures will crumble, paradigms are going to be changed, thoughts and belief systems. I'm not saying buildings will, but in the dream, that was the metaphor. The buildings are crumbling and everything's falling apart, and there's rubbish, garbage being flown across the street, and everything just looks like it's falling apart. And the street just looked like it was
after the war,
like it was just falling apart, like it was crumbling. It was just awful, and the wind was blowing, and it was horrible, like an apocalyptic film you might see. Okay, and none of us had any shoes on our feet. We were all barefoot in the dream. And so these other people were saying to me, we've got no shoes, we've got no shoes. And of course, all this rubble had been fallen all over the road, and we had to get away. We had to get away from this big financial institution or this bank, and we had to get somewhere else. And I was thinking, well, I must admit, how are we going to get over all that rubble with bare foot? We're going to hurt our feet. And everyone was saying, how can we need shoes to be able to run and get over all this rubble and these bricks. And I'm thinking, okay. And people were saying to me, how can you say that the synchronicity exists? And how can you say that abundance exists? Magenta, there is no abundance. You teach about abundance, because I was teaching and leading this group of people. You're teaching about abundance. There is no abundance. Where is the abundance? And I'm looking around at this completely falling apart town, and I think I must hold the faith. I must have faith, and I do, and I have. And I said, Trust me, honestly, there is abundance. I know you can't see it, but we must keep walking. We must keep walking. And everyone's moaning. So that's the perspective of it's all falling apart. My perspective is I know there'll be a gem here. I know that there will be something good. Or the universe is always giving you, or the higher self, or the guidance system, whatever word you want to give it, the galactics, is always presenting you with gems and gifts and signs and synchronicity. And just as we turn around the corner, there was a load of rubbish, garbage in these cardboard boxes with like all this newspaper. And I said, hold on a minute, there are all these boxes. I thought, what's this? I just had a feeling I needed to look. So I opened up one of the boxes and they were all full of shoes.
Okay.
Brand new shoes, all in different sizes to fit all of us. So I'm saying, look, they're shoes, they're shoes. So I'm giving everyone shoes and they're putting their shoes on and I'm putting my shoes on. And they're saying, well, yes, it's good that we've got shoes because now we can run away and we can run over the rubble. But that's still not abundance. That's still not synchronicity. At the end of the day, we're still in a world that's falling to pieces. And I was saying, that is abundance. Abundance isn't money because we're coming out of this financial institution, this bank. Abundance isn't money. Abundance isn't finance. Abundance is having everything you need in your life. And it comes in multiple forms. It is the horn of plenty. It is having what you need. And even in a collapsing society, in a town that's falling apart, synchronicity is always there. Love is always there. Galactic synchronicity and magic and abundance is always there. We needed shoes. We have shoes just lying there in boxes. And I'm trying to convince and teach everyone. So the differences in perspective was the main teaching within that dream, because when I woke up, I thought one group will see the shoes, just, yes, it's a bit of rubbish that happened to be helpful. Right. But even so, look at everything falling apart. But I saw that, I understood the abundance. So this is how it's going to be in 2023. And I'm as I said, I'm not talking about a village falling to pieces and buildings crashing and everything else. I'm talking about events occurring, situations occurring, something happening. How do you perceive that? And a lot of people, even spiritually aware people, perceive it at face value immediately. Like, oh no, that's really bad. Magenta, what does this mean? I'll have these questions all the time. How can this possibly be? You've been talking about, love and abundance and ascension, but look at this. This means all of what you're saying isn't true, just like the dream. And I'm having to say, wait, that's just one part of a massive picture. Everything is coming in stages. Be patient. That needs to lead to this and lead to that. So this is how it's going to be in 2023. Things occurring, and it's so important for the spiritual individual to really evaluate everything that occurs, whether it's on a personal level, in your own family, in your workplace, or on a global level. What could this mean? Don't just take it on face value. Look deeper into every event. And if your perspective has the knowing that you are always guided by a loving, benevolent, higher dimensional intelligence, higher force that is your divine creator self, that source aspect of you, if you hold that knowing, then you will always find the gems and the gifts, the boxes of shoes. When you have bare feet, you will always find them. What's around the next corner? What will you find around the next corner? So it's perspective that's so important as we go into 2023. Because we really need that tool.
Absolutely. I am getting that, but I also at the same time, spoke to people and then they are struggling. They're struggling in the relationship. They're struggling at home, struggling with health, with money, and how would you, I know there's no like one big, like everyone has different individual situation, but overall, how does one deal with the like this the small situation that is so crumbling as well, and on top of that there's a global crumbling, or so how does one hold the faith, or how even to live through daily life in that
Yes, such a good question. And you're so right. So many people, whether they're spiritually aware or not, are struggling with so many different things at the moment. So I've said this so many times, and it can sound like such a cliche and it can sound like such spiritual, airy fairy nonsense, but gratitude
Mm,
for what is occurring, even if you do not feel gratitude inside, you're actually frustrated and annoyed with the situation that you are in, or bewildered or confused, or whatever you may be genuinely feeling. If you can find gratitude, what gratitude does is take you into a place where you're grateful for this event or situation. Now, that doesn't mean that you're kidding yourself to be grateful for something that is clearly um, wrong for you, or that is potentially harmful towards you or against you. That doesn't mean that. What you're working here with is a manifestation technique.
mm,
So even if you don't feel gratitude, go back to, as I was saying earlier, the drama, the acting. Imagine that you are an actor and you have to feel gratitude for the role you're about to play on stage. If you don't feel gratitude when you say these lines, you aren't going to come across as grateful to the audience, and you want to do a good job in your role. So go there, pretend to be in gratitude. If you can't actually do it, pretend, and keep doing it every so often. Stop throughout the day. Gratitude, thank you, whatever it takes to really start to feel it. Once you do, you'll start to see elements of this situation, whether it's finance,
mm,
whether it's health, whether it's family, whether it's work, whether it's a spiritual concept or a global situation. Whatever it is, you will start to see a different perspective within that. And
mm,
then the gratitude that you hold takes you into a frequency that you are emanating from yourself into your personal reality. And then situations will come into your life where you will automatically be grateful for those situations because you've manifested them. So situations will come into your life that you are genuinely grateful for amidst all of this falling down and crashing. This doesn't mean that we are immune to challenges. I mean,
mm,
I went into hospital back in 2021,
mm,
and I had the thing that's been going around, and I got it quite badly. But I also ended up with a DVT, deep vein thrombosis, blood clot
mm,
in my left leg. But I knew to hold on to all of these teachings because
mm,
I was taken away in an ambulance in a potentially life-threatening situation. The paramedics didn't know if I had blood clot in my lungs or not. So obviously I knew that potentially this was a life-threatening situation. So I'm taken to the precipice of worry here.
mm,
So I had to call upon all the spiritual teachings that I had been given over the years, and went into this place of allowing
yeah,
allowing the flow, allowing myself to just go with this and observe my reality as well as experiencing it. So I'm in gratitude for anything I could experience, and also in gratitude for what you want to manifest. So I was in gratitude for, thank you for healing me,
mm,
thank you for making for allowing me to continue in my physical life, thank you for this experience. And that wasn't easy to do. And then when you're in a hospital as well, and you have the medical profession, which is obviously coming from a controlled structure from the top. So I'm bringing forward all of my tools, and thank you for that, doctor. Even though I didn't necessarily agree with the medical things he's saying to me, I'm in gratitude for this doctor because he's wanting to help me. I'm in gratitude for these nurses. Like I said, it sounds like a cliche, and you don't take gratitude in and of itself alone. You have to have boundaries as well. You have to have strong boundaries, especially if you're going into a structure that is potentially part of a more negative aspect rather than a positive one. And you have to have boundaries as you navigate through, but you have gratitude as well, looking for where are the lessons even if your experience is not good, even if you're in pain. I was in a lot of pain. Where are the lessons within this? And once you start to do this in your everyday life, it does kind of come naturally. And whilst you're not going to be immune from challenges, you will ride through them easier. You will navigate through them. So what's coming in 2023 and beyond, but there's a huge amount of stuff coming in 2023. What's coming, you need those tools to be able to ride through, because you are going to find that the majority of people around you are losing it. They're going to be getting crazier and crazier, more and more confused, more and more stressed, more and more anxious, because they don't have the spiritual tools to take them through such a huge situation that no one ever expected to occur in their lives. But if you can take the overview here and see that we're all going through the same thing, we're all experiencing the same reality, but we can choose how to perceive this reality. We can choose how to engage with it.
Yeah.
And it means thinking on our feet as well, because we might come across a situation and there might be 5 different ways that you could play it. Do you bring down your boundaries? Do you become forceful? Do you become passive? Do you ignore? Do you get involved? You have to think on your feet within each moment in real time. And it doesn't mean you're going to get everything right. So if afterwards, after an event, and you have behaved in a certain way through that event, you go home afterwards and sit there and think, I messed that up. I made a massive mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done something completely different. Don't be cross with yourself and be angry with yourself. Sit there and think, okay, that's what I chose to do. I've learned from it. I now know I could have done something else. That probably wasn't the best thing. However, I am in gratitude for the lesson. The more you do this, the easier it will be to make the aligned decision whenever you're faced with a situation. It becomes second nature. You make these decisions with the snap of your fingers.
Yeah.
But all of this takes practice. So I know these tools aren't necessarily easy, but they are tools that will assist people when they're going into 2023. Spiritually aware individuals who've been on this path for a while will be able to do this, and it will be easy for them because they've got years and years of spiritual development behind them, and they don't have to do it in the way that I'm saying. They can do it in their own unique way. But gratitude, and that's what gives you the faith. It's almost as though the connection with the galactic intelligence, the universal consciousness, the synchronicity that you get, like the dream, you got shoes when you were all barefoot. That is the magic. That is the knowing that there is a guidance system.
Yeah.
You're not alone when you see that. If you can hold that perspective, unlike people in my dream, oh, well, they're only shoes. Yeah, okay, we were barefoot, but even so, look at that crumbling building. If you can actually take the perspective of, thank you for the shoes, which is what I needed more than anything right now. So I don't have bare feet, and I can now run across this road that would have been painful if I had bare feet. Thank you for the shoes. If you can find the gratitude through that perspective, that's what gives you the faith, because you know you're not alone. You know that something greater than you has your back, and that something is the higher aspect of you. It is your creator self, and when you're in gratitude for it, that's when you are embodying it, and that's when you find that faith.
Wow. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I think the mind tends to want to have something complicated, right? But I think it's about back to the basics. It's the basics that we need to master. Like, how do we master our own emotions? How are we being present? How, to practice gratitude and start with being present. And like, I love what you say, like when when you were at the hospital, you just started to allow, because being spiritual or being guided doesn't mean we are, sailing life without any challenges. And I like that you brought it up several times. It is not about avoiding challenges. It's about how do we glide through or go through the challenges. That's what, yeah, because we are not here just to have a paradise life, right? Because then we probably wouldn't have come here at this time.
Exactly. Exactly, and it's a bit of a misconception in the spiritual community with some people, not with all, because they could say, well, if you were practicing what you preach, why did you end up in the hospital in the first place? Why did you have a DVT? Why did you get the thing that's going around? But it's not about that. My response would be, but I have come out of it. I have survived. I've made a full recovery. There is no evidence now of a DVT. It took me a while. And what got me through was gratitude for every single step of the way, literally, because obviously I couldn't walk at first. And when I took my first step, even though I was holding onto a frame, that was such an achievement, from being carried and sat in a wheelchair and being carried off a bed. I had actually stood up and took a step. I'm so grateful. I wasn't thinking, oh gosh, this is going to take me ages. How long will it take me to recover? Will I ever recover? Why did this happen to me? This is so awful. And I'm not saying it's wrong to feel that way. I completely understand. But if you want to move through more of challenges that are coming to us on a global level, then switching it around and being grateful for every move, grateful for every day. Wake up every morning. I'm so grateful that I'm here. Most people, not most, but yeah, well, maybe most actually, are waking up at the moment and thinking, this world is so horrible. A friend of mine said to me the other day, and she's somewhat spiritually aware, she said, I hate this world. I hate this world. Everything you hear on the news, everything you read about this happening in every country, I hate this world. And whilst I fully understand what she means, I really truly do, if you allow yourself to be there in that emotion, that's all you're going to see, things to hate. And yet we came here, when we have that memory, when we have that knowing of our mission, we came here to lead others through this situation and to take ourselves through this situation. And so we still have to find love for the world, because whatever you hate on a higher level is you are all things. You are unified with all things. If you say I hate this world, you are saying I hate myself. You are saying I hate God. You are saying I hate source. You are saying I hate. That's what you are saying. So if you can find it within yourself, well, yes, that's awful. Yes, it's terrible. Yes, we need to make a stand against it. Yes, we need to say a big no. I will not put up with that anymore. I will not tolerate this. I will not be treated this way. But at the same time, there's all this beauty. So we can still say, I love this world. Look at all the people that are trying to do good. Look at all the people that are sacrificing their lives. When I say their lives, I mean going off out with their family, having a good time, to get on to social media or wherever it is they're going, and to tell people the things that they know. Look at the people that are sacrificing their joys to be out there doing what they can to help. There's millions of people doing that. So we must love them, and we must recognize in them ourselves. So when we say, I love those people that are doing this, that are doing all that they can to help, I'm proud of myself for doing the same thing. I love this world. I love this life. You are saying, I love myself. I love God. I love source. That is why perspective is so, so important. And it's so very easy for people to see such different things from one situation or one event. And it's your choice. It's your choice how you choose to see this, because how you see it will affect your emotion, and it will allow you to feel. You can still wake up in the morning, and instead of thinking, I hate this world, you can wake up every morning and say, thank you for another day. Thank you for my life. Thank you that I'm still here. What shall I do today? Shall I work? Shall I take the day off? Shall I see my family? Shall I go to the shops? Shall I watch a film? Whatever I choose to do today. Or shall I deal with this really, really awful thing that's occurring? Shall I try to assist in some way? Whatever it may be, if we're in gratitude for it, we'll find joy in everything we do, and that will ripple out into the greater reality. That is what will save this planet, if you want to use that word, and humanity. If enough people think that way, then we've got a wonderful future ahead of us.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I think that is the best case of taking the creator power. That's how powerful we are, right? To choose what experience, what frequency, what a day, what this moment, how I want to live this moment, how do I want to see this, where do I want to see this, what just happened. So it just really to become aware of how powerful, how much power we have for our own well-being and for the whole, the creating the whole reality together moving forward.
100%. That's exactly how it is. 100%.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful wisdom and your experiences. And, I love how you started your life, your drama, your passion. I just love how expressive you are. I can see your summer train. Beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me to join you today. It was really nice of you, and it was really lovely to connect and have this chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again for being, on your mission, for being so dedicated and committed. And wow, yeah, you could also choose to do less, but I feel like you really are fully committed. So thank you. Thank you for being a model.
Thank you.
Forward. So thank you very much. Yeah. And thank you everyone for watching. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. We hope you feel inspired by Magenta's personal stories, her dedication and her commitment to her mission and how she sees the world. So we wish you a beautiful day, enjoying being human, and enjoying your process, your being a creator self. So take good care, and we will see you again very soon.